Have you ever tried to schedule coming up with an idea? I have. I do. Well, at least I try. In fact, that's kind of been my job for the past 20 years. And I've had a lot of failures, but I'm getting better. Hi, I'm Jesse, a filmmaker and photographer. And although this video isn't literally about either of those, I do know that as a creative person, we often struggle to manage our time and to get rid of distraction. As a freelance photographer, you start to realize the feast and famine cycles, the beck and call of clients being essentially on call 24/7. It can get really messy. And I talk about scheduling the time to come up with ideas because I think waiting for creative inspiration is a myth. We come up with ideas at the weirdest times, in the shower, when we're driving, worst of all, in bed at night. And I don't think this is creative inspiration. I think it's just our creative selves screaming out to be heard in the only quiet moments it can find. Amateurs, wait. And if I want to have any relationship with my kids, any free time, or even just get creative projects done, I need to actively corral my creative process into some sort of professional shape. And one of the biggest parts of it has been through notifications and what I like to call a hierarchy of communication urgency. Outside of work, our notifications prey on our fear of missing out. But the other hook I have in me is my urge to be a people pleaser. I was raised as a good Christian boy and taught to say yes, to be helpful. This can also have a negative side when you will drop anything to help someone, even if it's not urgent. I think that's better than the alternative, which is just being unreliable. And on the other hand, I don't want to feel like I'm on call for people. But we need to find a balance for creative professionals, sort of like me, who are generally not super kind to themselves, work long hours, and burn themselves out. A balance that doesn't sacrifice the task at hand to be at some person's beck and call, or worse, some app's beck and call. To ignore the fear of missing out, because if I don't get my job delivered, done, buried out of my mind, I'm going to miss out in a much bigger way. Despite what anyone tells you, we're unable to multitask. Jack of all projects, master of none. In any task, there is usually a flow. It's filming, writing, photography, any creative task, any task in general. You find deep focus and work gets done. You know those days when you breeze through your to-do lists, when Uncle Flo visits and you slide into the groove, you ride that creative wave to productivity. That analogy works, right? Uncle Flo. Do you know Uncle Flo? Does he visit you? Notifications are the enemy of the state. There's the little jealous gremlins that pop up and wonder why you're not holding your phone right now. Having a conscious hierarchy for communications and notification has helped me reclaim a lot of sanity. So I'm in the production business, and we often get the day's worth of client feedback at 5 p.m., often on a Friday. Can we see a new cut on Monday morning? Have a great weekend! Exclamation point. But understanding an order of importance and setting some guardrails, make sure I'm not laying in bed at 10 p.m. worried about work. Overall, you need an allotted workday for your sanity, for your family's sanity, for your friends' sanity. It can be flexible, things get blown up, but it should always go back to some baseline. Your true work, often separate of client work, is the most important thing during your allotted workday. A throwaway question someone has, a shitty app's notification has no place throwing off your flow. Your work is too valuable. We need to analyze and create a reduction in immediacy. We need to ask, is this more important than what I'm doing right now? And set guardrails. An email doesn't need to be replied to for 24 hours. A text doesn't need to be replied to for a few hours, especially during the workday. If you have friends that would be offended by note responses during the workday, that's a problem, their problem. Respecting this hierarchy, I've set up my phone and computer notifications like the following. A real emergency warrants a phone call. Phone calls can always come through. If you are laying on the sidewalk and your leg is pointing the wrong direction, don't text me, phone me. Better yet, phone someone else.
0118999.
I kind of feel like my hair looks like his a little bit. No email notifications ever. Email equals work. Checking my email is a work task that happens 3 times a day. before 10 a.m., at lunch, and at 4 p.m. That easily fits the 24-hour grace period. Calendar notifications are always allowed. This teaches me to pay attention to which calendar events warrant a notification. Being on time to meetings gives you permission to complain about the meeting. Beyond calendar alerts and phone calls, notifications are off from 10 a.m. until noon, allowed again from noon until 1 during lunch, but off again from 1 to 5 p.m. This protects my workday. Certain app and text notifications are allowed in the evening until 7 p.m. and then it's family and personal time. This also helps to develop an etiquette. I don't socially text people after 10 p.m. This is a holdover from the old landline days when my parents taught me it's too late to call someone. And now I know why, because I'm usually sound asleep by then. Texts are not for work. I picked this up from a friend who was also a client. He asked me very nicely one day not to text him about work, regardless of how convenient it is. He said, text is for friends, email is for work. So I try to follow this advice myself as much as possible, unless I'm in a real pinch. I've been backsliding a little bit, and I will use this as a reminder. Therefore, if someone texts me something about work and it is not urgent, I will usually respond in an email. It's kind of passive aggressive, but I don't really care. It sort of sets the tone for how I value my time. But I do have some people who are text only when it comes to work projects, and so I just treat those texts like email, respecting my workday. I use send later a lot, which is based on my general email etiquette. If I get an email after 5, I generally won't feel the urge to respond to it until the next morning. If it's something I just want to get off my brain, I will compose the email and send later, usually for 8 a.m. the next morning. Do the same for texts. Demonstrate your boundaries. Just make sure your phone or your laptop has an internet connection when you've scheduled your send later messages. And another little thing I wanted to include, subject your emails logically. If a producer is looking for a hair and makeup artist on a specific project and their subject line is yo, I will update the subject line in my response to be something like Taco Bell, space, dash, space, hair and makeup. This helps create logical threads, and I will generally change the subject line if the subject drifts. This keeps things very easy to find in emails, which is a nightmare when you have multiple projects happening at once. I updated the subject line on an email this morning where the subject drifted. This is my logical structure at the moment. Let me know what I'm missing or what I can improve. I sometimes worry that I'm coming off as passive aggressive, but really I'm not worried. I kind of don't feel the need to carry the burden of someone else's disorganization. And remember, it's not personal, it's professional. But I keep a reserve of grace. Ultimately, all of this modification, all of this thinking, all of these sort of like mental rules I've built have been just to bulldoze time into better buckets so I have time with my family, I have time to live, I have time to go places, and I have time to create. Internet culture runs on your attention. It has its own sort of flow state, but it's a bit more of a stupor, where whatever you spent the last 2 hours staring at is usually out of your mind the second you re-emerge. And I'm pretty sure you and I weren't put on this earth to flick our thumbs for 2 hours a day. All preachiness aside, I don't know what I'd do without my occasional kids getting hurt fix on Instagram Reels. I'm a broken man. I'm a monster. We just need to take control of our notifications, of other people's demands for our time, to make more time for Uncle Flo to visit. We don't want Uncle Flo visiting once a month or something crazy like that. We want him visiting every day. Uncle Flo, he wants to visit. He's good on a pull-out couch. He does smell a bit funny sometimes, sort of like mothballs mixed with Tide, but he's pretty good to have around, just so long as he doesn't bring Aunt Flo. Uncle Flo, what a guy. What a guy.